Hello, everyone. So great to see you again. It's Judy from Coffee, Cookies, and Books. And what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the first 4 books that I read in the month of April. Okay, so we're going to start this vlog off. Now, as I said in my intro, I'm doing it a little bit differently. And instead of doing vlogging in between my reading, because I actually don't like to talk about a book until I have finished it. And that's because your impressions can really change as you're midway through the book to the end of the book. Now, this is not a very long book. This is Haunting of Paynes Hollow by Kelley Armstrong. Got it from Book of the Month. I'm just going to put it over here. So it was not a long book. It's 276 pages, so certainly, definitely on the shorter end. It's a horror, technically. I had it in my Goodreads Choice Awards challenge that I had created, and it was one of the ones that I wanted to get rid of. That came out last year. Now, as a horror goes, it was good. I actually gave it 4 stars, so I did really enjoy it. So basically what this book is about, this book is about the Payne family and the tragedy that happened when Sam, who I think she was probably 10 at the time, and she witnessed her father burying a boy, and so she assumed her father killed him, and then her father unalived himself, and it was left with just her and her mother. Now, her mother had early onset dementia, and Samantha was trying to take care of her, and so it was costing her everything to put her in this beautiful home that she could be in, get advanced treatments for the dementia, all this kind of stuff, and it was costing Sam everything. So what happens is her grandfather passes away, and her grandfather says, now her grandfather has maintained that her father was innocent right from the beginning, and her grandfather basically says, you have to go and spend 30 days at this cottage on the lake on this 300-acre property that they owned in Paynes Hollow, which was named after their family. And then you get the $10 million that the development company wants to buy the property. And of course, she could really use the money. Like, she was supposed to go to med school. She received 2 offers for med school. So she was a good student, did really well. But she decided not to go and used all of her tuition money for her mother. So there were a lot of things. Like, all of the characters in the book to me were very likable. Very likable. And so you had Sam, you had Gail. Gail is technically Sam's aunt, but she was considerably younger than Sam's father. She was her father's sister. So she was considerably younger than him, so close enough to Sam's age. They were very close. There was Ben, who was the brother of the boy who died in Paynes Hollow, the one that Sam's father was burying. So there's him. Then there was the sheriff in town and his daughter. So those were kind of your key characters through the book. Now, Sam's mother was there, but kind of a little bit in the beginning and a little bit in the end, and that was kind of it for that. But those were the main pivotal characters that the whole story moved around, and it was her going back to this location. Now, there was a lot of lore and a lot of kind of folk tales about the land they were on, stories her grandfather would tell her about the where the story of Ichabod Crane came from, and the Headless Horseman, and saying that, that it came from their area. So it all kind of plays into the idea that there are essentially ghosts or something haunting this area of types. And I enjoyed all of that. Now the story is very fast paced, short book, 276 pages. So she pulls you through really fast. She starts you off very quickly. Like, it doesn't take long from the point where Sam is at the funeral, goes to the will reading, and then she's basically at the cottage. So you don't have a lot of lead up to that. She gives you what you need right at the beginning and then takes you through. I thought that it developed Sam and her relationships with all of these people really, really well. I just found a certain element of what was going on at the cottage, at the lake, was a tiny bit too fantastical for me. Okay? So we'll just say it that way. That was probably the part that disappointed me the most in the book. And the reason it wasn't a 5, because it could have been a 5-star read. Like, it was really, really, really good. I actually made a comment that when I wrote that I felt that instead of placing this occurrence right in front of your face and saying this is what's happening and this, it almost should have been a background element that you had to use more of your imagination to conjure it up. Just saying, okay? That kind of was the point where it lost me a little bit, but the twist at the end, loved it. Fantastic. I can't say enough about that. I thought that she did a fantastic job with how she kind of pulled it all together. And so, yeah, solid 4-star read for me. I think that when you read these horror books or a thriller book or whatever, that it really should do exactly what this book does. Start you off quick, gets you right into the story, pulls you along and leaves you in suspense as each thing happens, and then bang, you get a twist at the end that you didn't see coming. And that's really what a good thriller horror should do. Mystery. That's what all of them should do. So I would say loved it thoroughly. Okay. First book from Kelley Armstrong. Never read any of hers before. I know that she's written several really great ones, and this makes me actually want to read something else from her because I enjoyed it that much. So, good solid start to my April reads with this. And I think the next one that I'm reading is Coffin Moon by Keith Rosson. So again, another horror. It actually is in the same challenge because that came out last year, and it was also on the Goodreads. It was in the Goodreads Choice Awards, which is where I pulled all of my challenge. It was like 5 from 5 different categories. This was one of the horror categories, and Coffin Moon is also from that same category. So very much looking forward to reading that. And then I'll be kind of taking a little bit of a break from horror. Well, it's still a mystery thriller, and that's going to be A Drop of Corruption. So that'll be following right after Coffin Moon. So just kind of stay tuned. So this is how I'm going to be doing it for this vlog. And the reason being is that these books will not be reviewed at the end of the month. I will just mention them. Okay, so this is almost like my review for them. And I'm reviewing them as I read them so they're fresh in my head and I can give you my honest, real feelings about how I felt about them. And so this, like I said, great start, wonderful start. And so I guess we'll see you when we bring in Coffin Moon for me to review that. Hello, everyone. So just popping in to do my next review. I just finished Coffin Moon last night. It actually took me quite some time to read through this one, which I'm not really, well, shouldn't say I'm not really sure I am. The first 50%, pretty quick. It was the last 50% that took me some time. So this is a book about a guy and his niece, and they're basically hunting a vampire who killed his family. Now, how it all comes down is his mother-in-law and father-in-law, they own a bar in Seattle, or Portland. No, it's Portland, sorry. And these guys show up one night, and it's clear that they're from a biker gang, and he can tell, he knows what's going on. I mean, he's a pretty smart guy, but he's had a rough time because he was in Vietnam, saw a lot of things while he was there, and he came back a little bit damaged. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So the other thing is that they have their niece, and she is about 13, and she witnessed her mother kill her stepfather. And the stepfather was abusive, unfortunately. So it came down to her mom, basically. It's either him or us. It was kind of like that situation. So her mother went to jail, and because her mother went to jail, she had to go and live with Heidi, who is her aunt, and Heidi's husband, Dwayne, who is our main male character. So what happens is it comes down to there is a meeting with Joanne, who is the mother-in-law, in the back office with these two biker guys and this other guy named John Varley. And he is running the show, and they are attempting to sell drugs out of this bar. And Dwayne is like, that's not happening. Like, he's basically saying to Joanne, you're going to lose your bar. If the cops come in here and they find, what's happening, you're going to lose your bar if these guys are selling drugs out of your bar. And it's going to be obvious you know about it, that kind of thing. Joanne, in the meantime, is a little bit desperate because she says that John Varley can help her husband, Ed, because Ed is dying of cancer. Like, he's very sick. Now, Dwayne has no idea how this Varley character is going to do that. Like, he has no clue what he's dealing with at that point. And so Varley gets upset because Dwayne basically pulls a gun on them, tells them to get the hell out of the bar, all this sort of thing. Well, Varley's a very vengeful person, and he's a vampire, okay? And so you can imagine what happens is, it happens on a night when Dwayne isn't there and Julia, the niece, are not there. Heidi ends up dead because of Varley, and he also takes the lives of Joanne and Ed. So Julia, I think, is more inclined to want revenge against Varley. Dwayne hates him too, but he's left town, all that sort of thing. Varley ran. I mean, Varley was basically just using this motorcycle club, and basically he killed all the guys in the motorcycle club. The cops found them dead. I mean, it was just a disaster. And this is all happening in the 70s. I think it's 1975. So there's no cell phones, there's nothing, there's no computers, there's none of that stuff, right? So it's very raw and twisted. The whole book is like that. And when you get to the point, so what happens is 50% of the book deals with what's happening with how the situation all comes about, Varley making his move, killing all these people, and then Julia makes a choice to, anyway, I don't want to give it away because it will give some of it away, because this is like, so you hit 50% of the book and it jumps ahead 18 months. I think it's 18 months. So it's that jump ahead that kind of caught me off guard a little bit, because you feel like you're missing a bit of a piece. Fine, okay. So then you're going into the last 50% is them hunting Varley. Now, it does not feel slow. It is only a 300-page book, but what I found is that it's pretty brutal, okay? And the final 50% of the book got a little rough. The whole vampire thing. The other thing is, and this was a comment that I made in the review, you actually get Varley's point of view, which at certain points it's okay, and at other points it's like, I don't know if I wanted Varley's point of view. You know how when you follow vampire stories, you get their lore, but you get it from the people who are hunting them. You don't necessarily get it from the vampire himself. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but so that's kind of where it felt weird to me, what was going on with Varley. I mean, I suppose the way he wrote it towards the end sort of made sense, but then it felt a bit anticlimactic at the end. I mean, that's the best. Yeah, it was how it was structured, and the fact that it took 50% to get to the point where they were hunting him. I felt that it felt a little disjointed. I guess that's the best way of putting it. It felt a little disjointed. I gave it 3.5 stars because I still really enjoyed it. It sits right there with probably most of the thrillers that I read sit at the 3.5 mark. 3.5, 4 stars, most of them. So, it pretty much sat there. But those were the certain things about it that kind of bugged me. So, anyway, that's Coffin Moon. What am I reading next? Oh, Operation Bounce House by Matt Dinniman. That's up next. And I've already started that. I think I am 50 pages in. And it's starting off with a bang. Enjoying it so far. So we will see how that goes. It's kind of like, it's a 5-star hopeful. So fingers crossed that we get there with it. And yeah, so I'll be back when I have finished that one. So I finished it, Operation Bounce House by Matt Dinniman. And it was fantastic. 5 stars, okay? I was worried because I didn't know if Dinniman was going to be able to pull this off. Because, Dungeon Crawler Carl is such a strong series. It's gotten stronger as the books have gone on. I finished book 4 February and can't wait to continue in. I'm not in a rush though, because I don't want it to run out, and it is just so good. It is probably one of those series that I will go back and read again. This, however, is not a series. This is a standalone, okay? Now, I'm going to say this before I start this review. It could potentially have some spoilers in it because it's hard for me to explain how I felt about the story and how the story progressed without maybe potentially giving away a few little tidbits here and there. I will do my best not to. I think I managed not to give away anything major in the reviews for the first 2 books, so gonna do my best. Anyway, clearly I liked it, tabbed it to hell. Okay. The one thing that, okay, let's talk about the similarities between this and Dungeon Crawler Carl, because there are some. Same author, right? The style of how it's written, very similar. The fact that it's in one voice, which is your main male character, is the same, because Dungeon Crawler Carl is all Carl's point of view. This one had the humor, and the thing is that his humor, the same with Dungeon Crawler Carl, especially as you get deeper into that series, you have an appreciation for his comedic timing in the book. And that was the same in this one. And he was consistent with that. Okay. So those are the things that are the same. The other thing that's the same is it is a sci-fi based series. So Operation Bounce House is based on a planet that is one of the planets that Earth has taken over through a wormhole kind of idea. And there are several. There's more than just this one. I guess New Sonora is one of the ones that has a smaller population, but still, it is a fairly thriving population. That's kind of, and it has like that space elements and all that sort of thing, which we'll get into. That's kind of where it ends. This all takes place on a planet, and the main characters, they're farmers and farmers' kids, okay? These are not like city people. They don't have the same tech knowledge. They don't have the same things at their disposal. They have some from a tech point of view, because it went with them on the ships that basically populated the planet initially, right? Now, okay, so in Dungeon Crawler Carl, Carl is a touch closer to 30. Like, he's not young. You're not talking about like a 20-year-old man. I would say he might be 30, early 30s. I mean, this guy's had some history. He was a Coast Guard in his past life. So Carl is not young. So that's the one thing. With you have characters that are kind of the entire spectrum. Okay. This book has basically two age groups, essentially. And there's a reason for it. And that part I am not going to give away, because it actually is a huge part of the plot. But there is the younger people, which would be 25 and under, and there would be 50 and up, much older, and senior people. So that's a huge gap in between, and there's a reason for the gap. It falls on these younger people to basically save their community. Now, Oliver, who is our main character, there's Oliver, his sister Lulu, his girlfriend Rosita, his best friends Sam, Axel, and Tito, and then there's Araceli, who's another farmer. She's from another farm, a bit of a distance away, but she ends up in the group helping them. So those are kind of your key characters, because they all participate in what's happening in this book. The one comment that seemed to be a similar thread through some of the, I guess what you would call negative comments about the book, were that it felt like it was info dumpy. It kind of had to be a little bit, okay? And that's because you need to know some key things, how they got there, where their tech comes from, because that was important for the story of the book, what their history is on the planet. You kind of needed to know all those things. but I didn't feel like he dumped it all in one dump, okay? And maybe that was what people didn't like, but for me, when you don't read a series, you kind of expect a certain amount of information being either shown or told to you, because it kind of has to be, especially if you're going to build a world that is as complicated as this one is, even though it's on a farm. But it's still complicated. And I thought he did it well. I mean, I thought he did it, and he does it in such a way and delivers it in such a way that I guess you could put it, he kind of dumps it down a little bit, but not enough that you feel like you have to be stupid to follow it. No. He talks about things in a way like we would here. Okay, so it has a very much a feel for here. Now, the other thing is, this is clearly in the future, quite a ways in the future, and there is an element of the portrayal of how Earth is in the future, which is not pleasant. So he makes some serious political and social media statements. I would say that a lot of what's behind this book very much is driven by his commentary on social media. That's a huge thing. To me, that was huge in the book. And one of the things that was a combination of making you laugh and making you go, holy crap, because it's kind of like you can sort of see where he's coming from and where it's going. It was not pleasant to view that. Now, I will say that the consistency in the humor and where the humor came from, when I say it was consistent, was because it was mostly coming from particular characters and what they were saying and what they were doing. He kept it consistent through the book. So it was, by the time you got to like halfway through the book, you had their personalities down. Okay, so let's just give a quick rundown of what the story is about. So you've got this group of people. They live on this new planet. They've been there for quite some time. I think almost 70-something years. They've been there quite some time. They've managed to open the gateway to Earth so they can communicate. First of all, it was a communication ability, and then they opened it more, so now ships can come through. So it is now open. Hasn't been open for a long time, though. It's a very new thing. That's kind of where it starts at. You're going to look at that. And then what happens is Oliver, who's our main character, and who is running this farm that had been in his family's hands since his grandfather, and his grandfather has passed away, so now it goes to him and Lulu, his sister, who is kind of the tech genius in the house, and just the two of them are running this farm, along with robots, basically, like they're drones and pods. So the smaller the drones that do the work are called the honeybees, and then there is a hive queen, which is actually, maybe a hive king is better, is Roger. Okay, and Roger is what's called traducible AI, and he runs all of those machines. Roger's the one who keeps track of everything, so he would be kind of like your if you have a very large ranch, you have a ranch manager. That's what Roger is. Although Roger also was basically Lulu and Oliver's nanny, which is an interesting dynamic. And he still considers himself that because the administrator, who was their grandfather, unfortunately passed away in his sleep and never gave the codes to stop being the nanny. So he still nannies them, and they're like in their early 20s. It's comical. Roger's comical. So anyway, what happens is there's a problem with one of the honeybees, and Roger sets out on foot. Was he on foot? Or he might have driven out in a quad or something like that to go and collect this honeybee and Rogers with him, and they encounter a huge mech, what they call a mech, machine robot, like huge, and it has weapons and all kinds of things like that. Basically, Roger takes it down, and Oliver hears the voice in the suit talking to somebody and realizes it's some kid talking to his mother. Not good, right? Okay, so fast forward a little bit, and they come to find out that there has been a company that's been awarded a contract to basically kill all the people on the planet because they're terrorists, which they're not. That is what the people on Earth are being told, okay? And it's called the Operation Bounce House. That's what the operation is called. So they have 5 days of a chance to beat these mechs, these robots, and keep their planet. So you can imagine things evolve quite a lot. There are some really, really rough parts in it. So this is not just a happy shoot 'em up, kill 'em. There is a emotional story about the people who brought them there and what all of that represents. Spoiler on this for sure. You might want to skip past. Maybe I'll put a little spoiler tag on it. There is, and I'm not going to say who or what, but there is the death of a person who, I think for Oliver in particular, Oliver and Lulu, this individual was like a grandparent who kind of, like he was close to Oliver's grandfather. And so I think that kind of triggered them a little bit and made, Oliver in particular, made him realize this is real. This is really happening. And that they need to get mad, because Oliver at heart is, I would consider to be a gentle person. You know, I don't think he likes the idea of hurting anybody. But as things evolve through these days, and the book is separated into the days, okay? As it goes through, you see the evolution of how Oliver has come to realize it's them or us, sort of, okay? Not that he's going to destroy all of Earth or anything like that, but there's stuff that comes down as far as the AI that is in Roger, okay? Because it has been outlawed on Earth. That is like huge, okay? There's that. There is Lulu, the sister. She's hilarious too. I'm not even going to say this part, but let's just say that she's been doing stuff through the communication connection that they have with Earth, and she has accounts on Earth, and that kind of plays into how they manipulate and use social media on their end in this story as well. There's even the funniest thing is there is this huge fat pig and chickens from this farm, local farm, that they didn't want to leave them there. So they brought them to their farm, and they have become a social media sensation as well. And then the ingenuity, okay, between them and what they think of doing and what Roger does and what they actually accomplish to save the people. I think at one point it stated in the story there were like 300 people that had eventually congregated onto the farm because it was one of the few places that was able to defend itself, because these robots were just basically eliminating everyone. Yeah. The other thing, I thought it was really interesting, and this kind of happened at the beginning of the story, and I kind of caught on to it right away. So right away, they were saying that the only safe zone on the planet was a place called Fats Landing, which was like, I guess, what you consider the capital city of the planet. So it was a large urban metropolis. And they said that if you can get there, you'll be safe. So imagine how that went. None of them could get there. First of all, I think they said something that it would take 30 days to get there. No, not 30 days. Maybe it was 300 miles. I don't know. It was quite a distance away, far enough away that they wouldn't make it there in that 5 days. I mean, that's all that I can remember that as clear. That's the clear part of it, that there was no way they were going to be able to get there in the 5-day period. And in the end, it didn't matter. And that's all I'll say about that. Okay. So there was a lot that happened. I didn't know if I was going to like the characters when I started reading because they were so young. But, I try to never let that affect my initial impressions, because I've read books with younger characters that I thought were fantastic, and I thought they were written very age appropriate. So that to me was super important. Okay. They were written like young people in their late teens, early 20s. End of story. They were not written like they were 30. And I very much appreciated that, because there was a certain amount, they were scared. They were worried about their family members. They were, while I think they had to grow up fast, in the sense that the expectation is that these kids were the future of their population. The scary part to them was who was going to be left afterwards, right? So, yeah, there was all of it. I mean, even to the point where one of the Oliver's best friend, Sam, who is the Joker, like, he was funny, but he was funny in a sense that it was like you want to slap him in the back of the head, because he was like so dumb sometimes. But he was with a young 20s, and she was pregnant. She was 7 months pregnant, and she was there. And he was scared, and she was petrified for him, because he's out there fighting with Oliver. There was a lot of human emotion built into comedy, fighting, these mechanical robots, all this stuff, but it all takes place on this farm. So, when it comes right down to it, I thought he did a fantastic job, honestly. Now, it could have been a 2-book series, could have been a duology, because I think he could have wrote more about it. That's just my take on what I think he could have done with it. I don't think it could have been a big series, but I think it could have been a duology. And then I think maybe perhaps the information as it came could have been dribbled out in a different manner. And then that could have made people happier about how that was written. And I think he could have added more texture to the characters. Not that I didn't think there was enough. I thought they were fine. Some people didn't. Okay. So, I think that's my only major critique about the book, my critique about it, because I didn't have a problem with the information that was given to me. Didn't have a problem connecting with the characters. Didn't have a problem liking the characters, and then at sometimes thinking, geez, these are kids. Like it's just that kind of impression. So overall, 5 stars. Because to me, there wasn't enough of the critique part for me to knock it down at all. I feel like I freaking loved it because I loved it so much. I had such a good time reading the whole book. And I think that that's kind of where I'm going to be at from now on. When I read a book, it's like, sure, I can critique it to you and I'm going to give you all the aspects of, like, after, I don't read reviews until after I've read it, because then I have my feeling on where I think I want to rate it, right? So then I'll go in and I'll read the reviews, and I read the reviews so that when I come and I do my review to you, I can say, yes, they're right about that, okay? So it's not that I don't agree with them. It's just that I didn't feel that way about it necessarily. It wasn't something that bothered me through the book because it did not affect my enjoyment. And it's paced fast. So again, super, super fast through the whole book, which is why perhaps with a duology, could have slowed it down and could have dragged it out, and it would have been great. Great. So anyway, yeah. And you know what? It's only a 437 page book. So he packed a lot into 437 pages. And I do not regret reading it. And I would highly recommend it for anybody who wants a standalone sci-fi entertaining book. Okay, so that's it for that one. Now, I know that, I've got the 2 that came in front of this that I read, and I've read this one. Now, I have started A Drop of Corruption. I'll see where I'm at with it. This is Monday when I'm filming this. I'll see where I'm at with it by Wednesday. I'm hoping I'll finish it Wednesday night. If I can finish it by Wednesday night, then I'll add it to this video, okay, and do a deep review on that one. Even though it is the second book in a series, but it is not a continuation. It is a separate case for Anna and Din from the previous book. So, yeah, I think that I will try to do, because I can tell you I'm 100 pages in, and I'm like, okay, like what? It's so good. It's got me. 100 pages in, it's got me. It's about the same length as this one, I think. Might be a little bit longer, but not by much. So I'm gonna try and get that one finished. Try and add it to this vlog, because I do like the idea of bringing you a few different types of books through it. So we've had a thriller and a horror, sci-fi, adventure, and the next one is fantasy mystery. Right? Okay, so that's it for this. And if this is the last book, and if I didn't get this finished, then you're going to get a closing that'll film when I film the opening for this video. All right, so that's it for today, and we'll be back soon. Okay, so I did manage to finish it in time to get this filmed in time for me to edit it and get it up to you before the end of the month, obviously. This is the 4th book that's going to appear in this vlog. Is A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is the aardvark version, so it actually has this on the front of the hard copy, which I really love. And I also did get the Tainted Cup in this version because I actually really liked that book as well. And so I read The Tainted Cup first last year, and then I read this one. So now this book, before we get into the review part of it, I am going to say that it hits all 4 of my challenges. Okay, so it hits the series challenge because I read The Tainted Cup last year, and so this is getting read this year. So that's one. In the Goodreads Choice Challenge, It is in there as well. I think it's the fantasy choices, I think. So gets read with that one. Then under the buzzword challenge, I put it in to one of them for the frame because it has a frame on it. Even the etched hardcover, even the design on the hardcover, it has a very defined frame to the cover. So I put that in the buzzword challenge. And in the mystery thriller bingo challenge, it's going to go in there as well. I know I had a space for it. I just can't remember exactly what that was, but there was a spot for it in there as well. So it hit all 4 of my challenges. Very excited about that because I think that's fantastic. Okay, so this is a Anna and Din mysteries, part of the mystery series. So the first book, The Tainted Cup, you absolutely have to read it. Okay, if you do not read The Tainted Cup, you will not understand any of the world, because Anna and Din, while it is a mystery series, it is in a fantasy world. And this book continues a theme from the first book. So you absolutely 100% have to read it. Now, the first book was a little bit slow in the sense that it had a lot of world building. Also, I found in the first book that Anna didn't appear as much on page as Din did, because Din is your narrator. Okay. Same with this book. Din is the narrator of this book. And I really, really loved his character. I actually liked Anna and Din more in this book than in the first book. And I think it's because their relationship is established. They have now been working together for some time. I believe, I would say, but an 18-month period. They have been together as a pair. Okay. Now, what Din is Anna's assistant. So Anna is your main investigator. Her position is immunus, and he is called a signum. So there are very specific tiers to this society. So if you look in this book, it actually has all of the tiers in here. Okay. So they're all here, and Anna falls in here, and Din falls here. So these are the tiers of society, and the higher they go, the more respect they command, so to speak. The other thing that I did want to mention is where this story takes place. So it takes place somewhere outside of the empire. So the empire is all this area, kind of right here. And the first story sort of took place right in around this area here. Telegrade, that was where the first book took place. This book, the story takes place up here in a part of the world that is not technically part of the empire. Okay, so it's called the Arrow, and the people there, they do not work with the empire. They're not governed by the empire. They actually have a hierarchy. They have a king, that kind of thing. And there has the Yarrow, they entered into an agreement with the empire that they were going to become part of the empire. But this has been going on for years, so quite some time. And there has been negotiations back and forth. So all of that actually kind of comes into play with this, because there is quite a bit of politics in this book. Okay. Because it's a push and pull between the empire and this group of people. And they are different, and they have slaves. There are things that they do with their people and how they treat their people that is definitely questionable. And the empire would not allow that, essentially. So there's that. Then there is the murder cases that happen. So what brings Anna and Din in is the fact that a person has been found dead who was a treasury agent for the group of people that are from the empire that are coming to negotiate this so-called combining of the two. So how the body is found is gross. Best description for it. But basically he's floating in a canal. And yet they cannot understand how he left his room. So there's some incongruencies to how the murder took place, because there are indications that something happened in the room, but there's no way that he could have left the room. So that's kind of where this all starts, okay? Now, it seems like you get to a certain point in the book and you think, well, they solved it, like where it's going to go from here, because Anna actually solves how the murder took place quite quickly. But it's the question of what happens as things jump off from there, because it is just a roller coaster ride from that point. And basically what it all comes down to is there is this thing that is in the canals area, just sort of off the coast of where the Yarrows is, and it's called the Shroud. And what the Shroud is this thing that you can see that's green, and it is where these leviathans, which are the beasts that they fight every year, they bring them to this, they haul them in their dead carcasses basically to this thing, and they drain them of their blood and their marrow and that sort of thing, because that is what is used. It is very powerful. It is part of how they are able to change themselves, their augmentations, so to speak. A lot of it comes from these beasts. So it's, again, like I said, it's kind of political, and it's kind of, well, okay, these guys, the Yarrow, where their land is situated, like you notice when I showed it to you on the map, they're kind of off in this little corner, okay? They don't get Leviathans cresting on their land that they have to fight. So they don't deal with that there, and there's a reason that they don't deal with it. And the Shroud is there. I think that it is an area where the Leviathan's bodies kind of wash up over there. So they have taken advantage of this. It is a bit complicated, but if you've read the first book, you kind of have more of an understanding of what the depth of how their world works and what these beasts actually mean. The other thing is, you're kind of given a bit more of a view on how the Leviathans do exist, and they basically they only appear at one time, one portion of a standard year for these people, and it's as if they are coming ashore because they need to. It is almost like, I don't know if it's like a mating thing. Something is going on. So you're kind of getting a little bit more background into that. Yeah, so overall, I really did enjoy it. Now, I think that, like, this is the kind of book where he could essentially have a fairly robust series of Anna and Din, and where the underlying current of their world and what is happening in their world can grow as you go through the book. So I could see it being like more than a 2 or 3 book series, but it is still a series. You do still have to start from the beginning, but just know each book has brought Anna and Din into a very different case very different environment. So the first book is where Din is just starting the job. Okay, he's actually kind of in training. There also was some question in the first book of Din not being appropriate for the job. And that actually comes up a little bit in here too, between Anna and Din and their discussions, because Din is not even sure he wants the job. So those are kind of things that were part of the first book that have kind of filtered over into the next book as far as the relationship between the two of them. And Anna is weird. Okay. Anna, I'm not sure what augmentations have happened to her. And she has very deftly avoided Din's questions when he asks her, because he has asked her. That, I'm very curious about that. Now, Din has an augmentation. His augmentation is that he has this liquid and he can smell it. And when he smells it, he can completely tell Anna the details of whatever has transpired in front of him. He can recall it clearly 100%. It's almost like having a photographic recall. That kind of thing, but he can recall conversations word for word, exactly what happened. He can recall the environment that he's been in and the smells and the sounds and everything. So he has 100% recall. So that is an augmentation that he has. But Anna, he's not sure about Anna, and Anna has a high sensitivity to strange environments and noise and people and that kind of thing, and they really take their toll on her. She actually goes around blindfolded because her eyes are highly sensitive. So there is, suggestion that this is because of her augmentations. But what are they? And Din's asked her. In this book, I think he asked her twice. And she avoids it completely. So, yeah, it is just so good. I honestly can't wait to read another one with the two of them, because they're great characters. The other thing was there was a couple of other really good characters in here too, and one in particular was the warden, Mallow. She was the investigator that is part of the Yarrow Wardens, they're called, and she worked with Anna and Din quite closely. And yeah, I loved her character, and I loved how it kind of ended for her in the book. Don't know if we'll be seeing her. There was a question of that. Din kind of brought that up, like or maybe Anna did. One of the two of them brought it up at the end, like who might we see? So I guess that's kind of a spoiler. Might we see her again as we're going through? And let me tell you, the one thing about this book is there are multiple things that happen and multiple people who, like a lot of people are dead in the book. And it is all in a rolling kind of occurrence, all leading to this one person. And yeah, amazing. Loved it. 5 stars for sure. I think I gave the first book 4.5. And I think that was because in the first book, the first half of the first book was slow. This book, nothing was slow. Okay. None of it. I mean, yeah, it was just snappy, fast, quick, gross, a little bit brutal. And Din is a great narrator. That's all I have to say about that one. So that is Drop of Corruption for Robert Daxon Bennett. So let's just go through because this is the last book for the video. So I read that one. I read Operation Bounce House by Matt Dinniman. I read Coffin Moon by Keith Rosson. I think I went over this. I did a opening And then The Haunting of Paynes Hollow by Kelley Armstrong. So those are the 4 books in the video. And yeah, so what was it? 4-star, 3.5, and 2 5 stars in this one video. I think this is the first vlog where I've had a 5-star. I think. Pretty sure. Yeah. And all of these books hit my challenges. Except this one. Yeah. These are from challenges. Okay. So these hit my challenges with Drop of Corruption hitting 4 of my challenges. Operation Bounce House is just a new book from Matt Dinniman. I absolutely wanted to read it. And I like freaking loved it. But we'll see if I can fit it into my buzzword challenge. Because maybe I can fit it in my buzzword challenge. Who knows, right? Yeah. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope it was okay. I mean, I'm still kind of trying to get the hang of the whole idea of vlogging, as I said at the beginning. And it's, yeah. We shall see. I think I kind of like the idea of doing the reviews and maybe doing them a little bit lengthier and doing them at the end. Because at the end, as long as I film them as soon as I finish them, everything is very fresh in my brain on what happened in the book. So I'm much easier able to bring the details of that to you as opposed to waiting until the end of the month to do my reviews. So I do kind of like doing it that way, but then maybe I can do like sort of a vloggy thing occasionally, and where it can be much more casual and relaxed and taking you through as I'm reading the book. So maybe that's not something that I'll do all the time. That is something that we can do. And maybe we can do it as kind of a something where you guys participate and tell me what to read. So perhaps maybe we can give that a try. We shall see. Anyways, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and would love to hear if you've read any of these and what you think of them. Okay? So that's it for me. I'm out of here, and we'll see you in the next video.